Smartwatch, sports watch, fitness tracker, something in between? This is the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro, and as always over the past few years I've put this watch through extensive testing. The Huawei Watch GT6 Pro stands out mainly because of its versatility. It's essentially a very good mix between a smartwatch and a sports watch. In today's video I'll show you everything that this watch can do. We will take a look at the differences compared to last year's models, and we will talk about the general pros and cons of the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro. So let's dive right in, have fun. Just like in previous years, the GT6 comes in a standard and a Pro version, but in this video we will focus exclusively on the Pro model. This version currently costs around 350 euros, putting it on the same price range as the Samsung Galaxy Watch 8, but roughly 100 euros cheaper than the Apple Watch Series 11. While the non-Pro version comes in two different sizes, the GT6 Pro is only available in one. It has a case diameter of 45.6mm, a thickness of 11.25mm, and weighs about 55 grams without the strap. That means it's not exactly a small or lightweight watch. It fits my wrist quite well, but for people with slimmer wrists that might be different, of course. In terms of build quality, it's excellent. Unlike the regular GT6, which has a stainless steel case, the Pro model uses titanium. Depending on which color you choose, you will get either a black or silver titanium case, and the display is also protected by sapphire glass. For the strap you can choose between fluoroelastomer, nylon or titanium, though the titanium strap comes at an extra cost. As you've probably already noticed, this time I opted for the titanium strap, which is a pretty rare choice for me. However, I have to say that the watch really looks amazing. It looks very stylish with this strap. However, I also have to say that as someone who mainly sees himself as an athlete, the fluoroelastomer or especially the nylon strap would be the more practical option. They are lighter, fit closer to the wrist, and are simply more comfortable during workouts. So design-wise, top notch, but for sports I'll probably go with another strap again next time. But regardless of the band, the watch itself feels very high-end thanks to its titanium case. The shape is slightly octagonal with rounded corners, and there are numbers and markings around the bezel as well as on the edge of the display. Speaking of the display, this is a 1.47-inch full-color AMOLED panel with a resolution of 466x466 pixels and a maximum brightness of 3000 nits. There is absolutely nothing to complain about here. It's extremely bright and was perfectly readable in all conditions during my tests. For controls we have two buttons on the side, with the upper one also functioning as a rotating crown. The watch feels fast and responsive, just as you would expect from a modern smartwatch. Design-wise, Huawei watches have always appealed to me, and I have to say that once again the design of the GT6 Pro is fantastic. Of course that's subjective, but I personally think the watch is beautiful. The battery life is probably one of the biggest differences between classic sports watches and classic smartwatches, and one of the main reasons why people move away from Apple watches or Samsung Galaxy watches, because in many cases you have to charge them almost every single day. The Huawei Watch GT6 Pro on the other hand leans more toward the sports watch side. With up to 21 days of battery life, it's absolutely outstanding. The GT5 Pro previously offered up to 14 days with a 524 mAh battery, while the GT6 Pro now packs 867 mAh, so a clear upgrade. Keep in mind though that those 21 days refer to light usage. Under typical usage, Huawei claims around 12 days, and they even specify the conditions. Default settings: 30 minutes of calls per week, 180 minutes of training per week, plus continuous heart rate tracking and sleep monitoring. I personally use the watch very intensively, yet I still get about 8 to 9 days per charge, which is seriously impressive. For comparison, with the latest Apple Watch Series 11, I sometimes didn't even make it through a single day. So with 8 to 9 days, the GT6 Pro is almost on Garmin level endurance. I should mention that I don't use the always on display, so if you do, expect roughly half the battery life, so around 5 days, which is still solid. During training sessions with multiband GPS enabled, the battery drops about 4% per hour, giving roughly 25 hours of continuous workout tracking. Again, very strong results. Of course, with such excellent battery lives, you might wonder why can't Apple, Samsung or Google manage this with their devices. Well, to be fair, the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro does make some trade-offs on the smart feature side compared to these devices. There is no LTE version, so no standalone cellular connection, the App Store selection is limited, there is no Spotify support, and voice assistant functions only work if you have a Huawei smartphone as well. For me as an athlete, these are all features I can easily live without, especially in exchange with the far better battery life, but I just wanted to mention them because, yeah, comparing Huawei watches to Apple watches or Samsung Galaxy watches isn't always a 100% fair one-to-one comparison. As I've already mentioned, I see myself primarily as an athlete. On this channel I mostly test sports watches from Garmin, Polar, Suunto or Coros. However, smartwatches are becoming increasingly sports focused as well, so the question is, how does the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro perform in this area? In training mode we get 20 pre-installed workout profiles, which can of course be expanded. In total there are over 100 different profiles available, including a triathlon mode. This year's biggest upgrades are especially relevant for cyclists. On last year's GT5 Pro, activities like running, walking, rowing and using a cross trainer could be automatically detected, but cycling wasn't supported. Now the GT6 Pro can recognize cycling sessions as well. Even more impressive, the watch now includes a virtual power meter which estimates cycling power in watts, and if you connect an external power meter, it can even calculate your FTP or your functional threshold power. Trail runners will also be pleased because the watch now provides elevation data, estimated arrival times and intermediate checkpoint information. The watch is water resistant up to 40 meters and it includes a dedicated diving mode. There is also a golf mode with 17,000 preloaded course maps. By the way, both the diving and golf features are exclusive to the Pro version, they are not available on the standard GT6. The data screens during workouts can be fully customized for each sport, so for running, for example, you can view your cadence, aerobic and anaerobic training load and running form metrics such as balance, vertical oscillation and ground contact time. However, running power in watts is missing, something we do see on brands like Garmin or Coros. During workouts you can also use audio coaching cues, there is a dedicated always-on display mode for training and as mentioned earlier, automatic workout detection of course. There is also fall detection and an SOS emergency function, both important safety features. After a workout you will see a summary of your key metrics and graphs directly on the watch and even more detailed analytics in the Huawei Health app. Outside of training mode, there are also a few training analysis tools. First, there is the so-called Running Ability Index showing your running performance compared to other runners. You will also find metrics like training load, a training index that indicates your overall fitness level, fatigue and recovery insights, including recommended rest time until your next intense workout and suggestions for optimal recovery actions. Finally, the watch displays your VO2 max value along with predicted race times for various distances. However, in my experience, the VO2 max wasn't entirely accurate compared to other brands. This summer I actually had a lab test done which showed a VO2 max of 52. Since then I have trained specifically towards improving my VO2 max, so I've done a lot of interval workouts and I could increase my VO2 max from 52 to somewhere between 58 and 60, which is what my Garmin watch shows me. However, the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro shows a VO2 max of 63, so thank you very much, but this is a bit too high definitely. Still, all of these advanced training tools are definitely very useful and most of them are also pretty comparable to what my other devices show. Beyond all of these classic training features, the watch once again also has a ton of useful fitness and health features for your everyday life. Swiping right from the home screen shows the daily fitness overview, including calories burned, active time and standing time displayed in the familiar activity rings that track progress toward your daily goals. Below that you will find more detailed stats such as steps, distance, activity breakdowns and timeline graphs for each metric. The next widget is a health dashboard with multiple tiles such as your daily heart rate graph, plus a dedicated heart rate widget with more detail, a stress tracking widget, an SpO2 sensor for blood oxygen saturation, a skin temperature widget and sleep tracking. The sleep score is shown on a 0 to 100 scale, also represented by stars, and you can view total sleep duration, sleep phase breakdown breakdown and overnight metrics such as breathing rate, heart rate and oxygen saturation. A new addition compared to the GT5 Pro is the heart rate variability measurement. I'm currently testing various screenless fitness trackers, so on my right arm you will see the Whoop, and I also test the Amazfit Helio strap for a few months already, and the Polar Loop, so on most days I wear like 5 to 6 trackers on my wrist, so I look like a total nerd. But I can also tell you that the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro is very comparable to these devices when it comes to the sleep analysis. Of course, sleep analysis on any of these wearable devices isn't 100% accurate, you can never really rely on it, but the values are pretty comparable. Another widget worth mentioning is the Health Clever. In the app you can set specific wellness goals like weight loss, stress reduction, immune system support or better sleep quality. You then define your individual targets and the watch tracks your progress toward each goal. The Huawei Health app itself is well designed and user-friendly. All the same data you see on the watch is displayed here again with extra charts and insights. You can also do guided breathing exercises directly on the watch, and the app includes free workout and relaxation programs such as yoga masterclasses, pre-sleep relaxation or app workouts. Under the training section you can even create personalized training plans for specific sports, such as preparing for a 10k run or a marathon, and there were also some cycling workouts available here. But back to the watch itself. By pressing the top button you can access all widgets, and a new addition here is the Health Insights widget, which gives you a quick overview of your key fitness and health stats, showing whether they are within normal ranges and how they have changed over the past few days. Another notable feature, which is exclusive to the Pro version, is the ECG, so you can record an electrocardiogram directly on your wrist. And based on that, the watch can also measure pulse wave velocity, which reflects arterial stiffness, a useful indicator of vascular elasticity and cardiovascular health. High arterial stiffness, for example, can point to elevated blood pressure. However, the GT6 Pro itself doesn't include a dedicated blood pressure monitor. For that, Huawei offers the Watch D2, which has an inflatable cuff built into the strap that allows for real blood pressure measurements, and you can already find my full review of that watch as well on my channel. You can also use navigation features with the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro. Since the watch doesn't run on Wear OS, you can't use Google Maps or anything like that. Instead, it uses Huawei's own service called Petal Maps. Through the Huawei Health app, you can download maps directly onto the watch and use them offline. The Pro version even includes topographic contour lines, which are especially useful for hiking or any mountain-related activities. You can also upload routes to the watch and use them for turn-by-turn navigation during workouts. These maps include topographic details, street names and points of interest, and there is even a backtrack feature to help you retrace your steps. However, unlike Garmin's outdoor sports watches or the Amazfit TRX 3 Pro, the GT6 Pro cannot create new routes directly on the watch. It's not a fully routable navigation system. Of course, GPS accuracy is also very important, and just like most other modern smartwatches or sports watches, the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro has multi-band GNSS, which in most of my tests has shown to be very accurate. And in my tests, the GT6 Pro's GPS performance was indeed very precise. No matter whether I was running in the forest, in the city, through rural areas or anywhere else, the watch tracked my route very accurately and didn't cut any corners. The recorded distance also matched very well with my other watches. On the treadmill, the distance was slightly underestimated, but that can easily be corrected afterward, and well, it isn't GPS related. I also ran a few laps around the sports field. The tracking here wasn't perfect, as we can see, since I was always running on the same lane. But it's still acceptable, and as I said, overall I was definitely satisfied with the GPS accuracy. In addition to GPS accuracy, I also wanted to know how accurate the watch can track my heart rate, so as always I tracked all of my workouts, both with the watch as well as with a chest strap, and then compared both datasets afterwards. Unfortunately, Huawei still doesn't allow data export, but you can sync your workouts to Strava and export them from there. However, this only works for standard workouts such as running, cycling or strength training. For most other activity types, data export to Strava isn't supported. So here you can see the data from one of my running sessions, in blue from the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro and in red from the chest strap. And this is an absolutely perfect perfect result, the curves match incredibly well. In this interval run, there were, as expected, slightly larger deviations, but that's really nitpicking at a high level, so the watch can still be considered accurate here. This next example is one of my football training sessions. Heart rate naturally fluctuates much more during that, but even here the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro handled it surprisingly well. I was even more impressed during strength training. In my experience, the measurement here was among the most accurate I've ever seen in all of my tests. For example, in this workout the curve matches the chest strap readings almost perfectly throughout the entire session. In total I recorded 7 strength training sessions with the watch, and while it didn't always look quite as perfect as here, it was consistently above average in accuracy. There were no real outliers. So overall the heart rate accuracy in my tests was very good. So then, what's the final verdict on the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro? In my opinion, it's once again a very impressive watch, offering an extremely compelling overall package for around 350 euros. Like many Huawei watches in recent years, it's a hybrid between a smartwatch and a sports watch. It comes packed with useful training and fitness features, feels premium and durable, and above all, its battery life is outstanding, far better than with most other smartwatches on the market. On the downside, it lags behind true smartwatches like the Apple Watch or Galaxy Watch when it comes to smart features. However, unlike those models, it can be used with both iOS and Android. What's also worth mentioning, and this is something I already concluded in my review of the Huawei Watch GT5 Pro last year, that you don't really necessarily need the Pro version. So the normal GT6 offers many of the same features as well as the same battery life claims. The key differences are that it's made of stainless steel instead of titanium, it lacks sapphire glass, and it isn't suitable for diving and doesn't have ECG functionality. Otherwise, though, the watches are very similar, and at around 230 euros, the standard GT6 is significantly cheaper and also available in 2 different sizes, so there is a smaller size as well. I have linked both watches for you in the video description. But as always, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about the Huawei Watch GT6 Pro. If you found this video helpful or interesting, you could really support me by giving this video a quick thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel to not miss any future reviews. But for now, thanks a lot for watching and see you in the next one.